Welcome everybody to Monday Funday. It's your hosts, Ricky and
Andrew,
Little
welcome. Good to
Andy.
see you on this nice cold Toronto Monday, wherever you're finding us. Good to see you. So, Ricky, we were having a conversation this past weekend in Texas. And the one thing we noticed was the diversity and the quality of the relationships, the people that were around us. And, Ricky, what was it that you said to me?
Well, when you surround yourself by people who are really obsessed with personal success in terms of living the best life they can, contributing the best way they can, being the healthiest version of themselves that they can, you automatically pick up these principles. You automatically start behaving in that way. So one of the things me and Andrew realized very quickly is how many people don't have this, or how many people have the complete opposite of this, where they're surrounding themselves with people who are constantly bringing them down, constantly holding them down. It's that crabs in a bucket situation, right? Where people are just kind of dragging others down through life. So one of the things that I've discovered personally, Andrew's discovered personally, is that as your relationships improve, and not just in terms of quality, but in terms of quantity, meeting the right people, meeting an abundant group of people, no matter where you go, your health improves big time. And both of us experienced that. I know there was a few nights we went to a conference called the Functional Medicine Success Summit. And one of those nights, we didn't really sleep much. It was like, what, 4 hours of sleep or something
Oh,
like
yeah.
that?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
still trying to catch up now. Yeah.
But the next day, what happened? We were with the right people, amazing people who elevated our energy. Like, did we really even yawn until we got in bed actually to call it a night? No, like we had amazing energy all through the day. Not once was I thinking, oh crap, I really got to get out of here and I got to go sleep, right? So you were able to create energy because of the people around you. And it's so important, because if people are constantly lifting you up, people are constantly on your wavelength, there's no resistance. You don't get tired. You don't get fatigued. Do you feel the same way?
I do. I mean, I've noticed that as the quality of my relationships have gone up, so has my health, so has my life. And so I guess the first piece I want to bring up is if you're dealing with something right now, you're not super energized, you're feeling like, maybe you're not feeling your best, or there's something in your life that's not quite clicking, take a look at your relationships. And the first thing that I'd recommend is without judgment, right? Often those closest to us, we have judgment, or we already have an expectation of how we're, going to treat them. And if we can just acknowledge where they're coming from, what are their realities, we can begin to maybe see it from their point of view. Like maybe they are doing their best. And, maybe if you're frustrated with your mom right now, or your dad, or your best friend, and instead of looking at it dead on and looking at it from their point of view, or from your point of view at them, instead, what if we were to look at it from a side perspective? If you were a bird flying over, maybe the things that they're doing that you feel are inappropriate or upsetting or frustrating you actually come as a result of how people treat them. So the first thing I would recommend is just acknowledge, right? We do actually, it's a big part of high performance is to acknowledge the realities, see where they're coming from. And Ricky, what would be your sort of next tip in terms of the people that you've seen come into the clinic and you're trying to help them improve their health, and all of a sudden you see this relationship block that's getting in the way? What is your first suggestion usually?
You got to take a global approach, because like one of the things in functional medicine, a word that's tossed around a lot is detox, right? And people take all of this stuff to help them detox. They do a juice fast, they do a real fast, they take supplements, they'll be on milk thistle year round, but guess what? They won't detox their relationships. And that's a losing battle right there. You have to be willing to pull the band-aid off sometimes. I'm not saying go home and break up with your significant other, but really work on it. Come from a place of non-judgment. Don't always think that, hey, they're just not functioning the way they should be. They don't care, right? They're probably going through their own inner battle. So really communication is where it starts. Always communicate well. But as Andrew said, like it has to come from a place of non-judgment. You
Yeah.
want to be able to actually get somewhere with that conversation. You don't want to just run around in circles, and then it always ends up in anger or something like that. And one of the things where I've really seen this as I've been paying more and more attention to it, and I really have in 2019, I feel if there's one thing I've done really well in 2019 that maybe I didn't do as well in 2018, is pay attention to the quality of the relationships that I have and really work on building relationships as well. And me and Andrew, we run one of the world's most effective weight loss programs, and people are just shedding pounds. We've been getting people in 4 days lose over 10 pounds. So there's been some amazing results, but one of the things that we have built there is a community. So one of the most amazing things that we see happen, even without our doing, without facilitating it or doing anything else, is a community has been built. People are cheering others on. They're helping them break through plateaus. They're helping them get over the mindset piece of getting over it. So it's all about finding your tribe. So from taking an honest assessment of your relationships, working on communication, detoxifying your relationships, you then want to get into finding your tribe. So I know me, for a long part of my life, I was kind of tribeless. I didn't really fit in. We were misfits in a way, right? So we didn't really fit in. And I know Andrew can speak to that. We shared a lot of stories over the weekend, just of our own childhood and kind of our teenage years, both being not so good people. I don't know if I can say that, but troublemakers, right?
Yes. Find ourselves in trouble because we are influenced by relationships, right? And so this brings me to a couple other points that Ricky touched on. And he did say you don't have to necessarily let someone go, but in fact, you may need to look at letting go. It could be something that transpired and maybe, it was outside your control and even that individual's control. And that your job isn't to hold on to it because, just as much as we need to go to the bathroom, at least a couple times a day or however the quantity of that may be, there's also an emotional bowel movement that needs to occur. If you're holding on to something, we need to let go of that. And it could be a person, meaning, you might have to fire someone. Now, you don't have to call someone on the phone and say, hey, I really don't like you, I despise you. Sometimes you just need to just not focus on that and see what changes. Because the more you focus on something, the more it becomes real. The more your physiology determines, hey, this is a real live event. Let's make sure we surge some adrenaline in this, and then you wonder why you get forgetful and confused and tired and your sleep's affected. It's because you're not just lying on a bed of thorns, but you're carrying them in your pocket. And every time you put your hand in, you're wondering why, hey, why is my hand got pricked? Why is my hand bleeding? So first thing I'll say is let it go. In order to be where I am, I will acknowledge I had to let a lot of things go. Not just people, but also events and circumstances that I contributed to, and I needed to move on that. Maybe you have to try tapping, EFT, as a way of moving that energy through you rather than into you. The other piece that really this brings to it, and why EFT is a good example of this, is self-care, right? The relationship piece, the bridge that connects two people, it starts with you. And if you don't have a relationship with yourself, it's going to be really difficult to have a relationship with anyone else. And so when you start acknowledging your importance and your self-care and your routines, and I want Ricky to speak to this because now that he's seen it going through high performance, even just how he feels and how he's able to then deliver to his patients, his loved ones, his community, that's not a coincidence, right? And so maybe right now you're feeling like, this person's ignoring you, that person snubbed you, that hurts over here, I can't get over that person from a year ago. So what we need to do is get ourselves into a healing state, just one of more calmness, turning off the TV and other stimuli, and relaxing, finding a book, learning about yourself, getting to know yourself, finding some time in silence and in nature, and seeing what you can do to unravel those mysterious layers. So another big tip is letting go, not just of the event, but of the people who may no longer serve you. Because take it from us, and you may also have acknowledged this, the more you grow, the more likely you are to use and get rid of some of the things in your backpack as you're climbing that mountain, right? You may no longer need that food. Is you've digested it, it has served you. It's no longer in your backpack, right? It'll be on the side of the mountain in no time, right? So letting go is a really healthy piece to move into. And then start with that relationship with yourself, because if you don't start there, you're going to then look for people who also align with that. So if you want to attract people that don't have a relationship with themselves, what can often then happen is we get into a bit of an energy vampire situation where, because you haven't mastered your skills of self-care, self-love, then you find relationships, and in many cases, as we see, and I'll let Ricky talk to this again a little more, but people's energy get pulled away by others. Even though they may not mean harm to you, they just may not have developed the keen sense and awareness of what is required to build a relationship with themselves. So Ricky, I know you've got a lot of experience with that, right?
No, absolutely. And like so many stories come to mind. And one that happened, I think it was started last year, if I remember the dates correctly, but I had a patient come into me, older woman, and she had a lot of joint pain, inflammatory issues, a lot of mental, emotional stuff going on. And one of the things she told me at the first appointment, she's really excited to do the program. She's really excited to work with me in a functional medicine capacity. But right at the end, she said something that kind of like, it was like a punch in my gut. She goes, "My husband can't know I'm doing this." And I was like, what the heck? Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. And then as I started probing her, she's like, okay, I can't tell my husband what I'm doing. He makes fun of me for buying organic groceries. He tells me I'm wasting my money. If I buy a supplement, he's always kind of just poking the bear. He's always just trying to get on my nerves and telling me, oh, you're just taking that crap. There's no research to back that up. So here's someone who is in a relationship with an energy vampire. And I told her, I was so blunt and clear with her at that first appointment. I'm like, listen, I actually don't want to accept your case if that's the situation. But she was in tears. She really wanted to do it. She promised me she'd work on a relationship. So we did take on her case, but I told her, I'm like, I can give you every supplement on the face of the planet, but if you don't fix that, you're not going to make much improvement, much progress. And it's ultimately what did end up happening. Like everything we try, she'd shoot me an email and be like, oh, like I'm not feeling that much better, or hey, like this issue is still lingering. And I would ask her, like, how's your relationship? Yeah, we fought. My husband didn't let me use the computer. Oh, that was the other big thing. She wasn't able to use the computer until after her husband fell asleep to look at health stuff, because she didn't want him to know that she was looking at health stuff. So like this was like the perfect case of somebody who was in denial about the impact of their relationships. And we've had countless patients. I know early on when I was actually just starting out at the Living Proof Institute, I was actually shadowing a case, and one woman, Dr. Patel was her doctor at the time, put her through the functional medicine regimens in terms of testing her, finding out where she needs support, supporting her really well, coming back with clean tests, but her back pain wouldn't improve. And he got an email a few months after she was done the program that, hey, my back pain's gone. And he's like, what'd you do? She's like, I quit my job. She used to hate her boss. She used to visualize the boss getting hurt and worse. So here's where relationships will make or break you. And most of the time break you, especially if you're not having the quality in your relationships, the open communication in your relationships. And I love, Andrew said the word, and I was thinking of the book to throw in there. But for any of you that do want to learn more about this, an amazing, amazing book. It's called Dodging Energy Vampires. And we will attract these energy vampires in our life. So at the end of the day, like if you have a job where you meet face-to-face with clients, or you are trying to find a relationship, so maybe you're dating or doing something like that, and certain dates you'll come back home and you'll be feeling just excited, invigorated, but then certain dates you'll come back home, or after meeting certain clients, you're just drained. There's no energy to you. You're probably in the presence of an energy vampire. And we're all energy. I don't care what anybody says. You create energy. We are emotional beings. Andrew said it beautifully. Like a lot of people need to have an emotional bowel movement, right? But guess what we see, Andrew? We see people who are emotionally constipated, right? They can't just take magnesium to clear that constipation. They gotta do some nitty gritty work to get rid of that crap, literally, right? So We want to make sure that you guys are doing an honest assessment of the relationships in your life, because guess what? If you have toxic relationships, you're surrounded by energy vampires. I don't care if you come to see me, you come to see Andrew, you go to see Dr. Mark Hyman, you go to see literally anyone on the face of the planet, whether it's for health reasons, performance reasons, business reasons, you're not going to get results. Those relationships will plague you 24/7. And I know Andrew has gone through his fair share of these energy vampire relationships. We were just talking about a few.
Absolutely. It was sort of part and parcel of figuring out what I wanted, who I wanted to become, because I already knew what I didn't want to stay as, if that makes sense. You know, I was having a life of low engagement. The connections I was developing with people were making me feel like, you know, I was a big service to others. I felt really deeply connected. And I took a long, hard look it was actually a number of years. And I looked at myself, I looked in the mirror and I said, hey, dude, like, you're the one that's bringing this into your life. That starts with you. And so as much as you can also, you know, look and let go and acknowledge and spend more time and honor the relationship you have with yourself, also take a hard look and acknowledge that whatever is going on in your life, you got to take a look at yourself. Now, here's an example. On a regular, I hear people that say, you know, I'm an accident victim. I was in a car accident. And now I'm not saying this to bring up any unsettled emotions. In all due respect, I'm sure there are many people who have lost loved ones. I know I have, in car accidents. But there's something interesting that I've noticed spending 1,000,000+ kilometers on the road. You heard it. 1,000,000+, 1.5 million kilometers is my guesstimate. And there's no accident. There's an attraction force here. Now, if for some reason someone comes at you in an oncoming lane, maybe it's a drunk driver, and someone gets hit, well, you know, were you really intently focused? Like, I was driving from the airport after we got back from Houston yesterday, and I saw a guy come on the on-ramp, and he was coming over onto the lane beside me. And then I realized, wait a second, he's getting closer. And I laid on the horn and I moved over. And had I not honked and moved over a little bit, he would have sideswiped me. And it was, you know, it's snowing and it's dark out. It's 9:30, 10 o'clock Eastern at night. It's super dark and it's winter. And, you know, did I blame him, or did I acknowledge that maybe I was in a lane where, you know, I was going a little faster and I could have just stayed in the slower lane? But even in the slow lane, you got to merge, right, for people. So especially have a relationship with your surroundings. When you're driving a vehicle, that's actually a huge stressor for people. Creates a lot of panic and anxiety. So take a hard look in the mirror and say, hey, like, you know, how have I contributed to this? Because self-ownership and understanding where you may need to develop and strengthen yourself, that's the only way this is going to change long term. And then the other part of this, sort of on the flip side, is they're now finding that social isolation is worse than nutrient deprivation or depletion, right? So having a poor diet, they're finding, has less impact than being socially isolated. So just like how you want to bring in all this great food, if you don't have relationships that bring in nourishment, get out there and find some. Join meetups, join clubs, community centers, volunteer, right? Be around people. And you know what? You don't have to go in with an agenda. It could just be, hey, you know, I need to get out, because I know what happens when I'm up north at my sanctuary and I'm there for 4 or 5 days. Luckily, I'm on the phone a lot, having breakthrough call sessions. But when I get out, boy, do I enjoy it. And it's something that I know is a non-negotiable. So going back, it's take a hard look at yourself, not just at other people and letting them go, or bitter disagreements over certain past events go, but also saying, hey, how could I show up differently? And how will I be able to rewire my results? Because if there is something in your life, albeit, let's say, a car accident, say, hey, am I the most focused driver, or do I have the music on really loud? Or am I always checking my phone? Am I always distracted? What are the thoughts going on? Because here's the other thing I've learned is if you don't master your thoughts, you're going to show up to an environment. Remember, maybe even like meeting an attractive boy or girl, or you're about to have a business meeting or an interview, and the thoughts that are going through your head end up taking away your ability to engage and focus. So breathe into that, right? And take away the isolation out of your life and get re-regulated into the world around you, because there's a lot of beautiful people out there. I mean, humans by nature are wonderful, kind, generous, but because they're not looking at themselves as an opportunity, a tool to sharpen, they're focused on CNN or TV, or they're always disengaged from who they are and what they're truly passionate about, then they start to falter. And so instead of saying, hey, this person did that, maybe you could say, hey, maybe I could shine a brighter light on them. So Ricky, I know you're super passionate about calling people out on their stuff and making sure that we get aligned towards the best person that we can possibly become. So what's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, beautifully said. And one of the powerful things you said there, actually, it even goes further than that. You said social isolation is worse than nutrient deficiencies. So eating like crap, it actually goes deeper than that. The UCLA Stress Lab did a test, and that's a mega research facility. And they found that social isolation kills more people than nutrient deficiency. So poor diets, smoking, and drinking. So you would think these behaviors that are supposed to destroy our body are bad for us. So you can be someone who's an absolute quote unquote health freak, where you're doing everything right, like everything's organic. You kind of like walk around with the cross to all the non-organic stuff and like alcohol and substances and things like that. But if you're alone, if you're by yourself, that's going to be a battle you're not going to win. And like the key thing, like as I reflect, and I've been doing a lot more self-reflection, I started journaling, I really looked deep. And one of the things that I've figured out is like, wow, I'm spending more time with people I met probably in the last 12 months today than I do with people I've known for the past 12 years. And by doing that, I've also noticed that I have more energy than I ever have. I never feel that energy vampire drained feeling. My life outcomes have been way better in terms of the quality and depth of my relationships, my results in clinic with patients, the opportunities that have been coming up, the way that I've been creating videos or I do live workshops. Like literally every part of my life has been amplified because I really make sure I monitor the quality of my relationships. Now, for many of you, if you guys do feel isolated, or you're like, okay, where the heck do I meet people who are on the same wavelength as me? All my friends are still hitting up a bar 3 times a week and really not talking about anything that's contributing to the world, and nothing wrong with that. So don't again think that I'm judging people, but if you feel like that internal need to be different, you need to be different, you just aren't getting what you're supposed to be getting, you don't feel fulfilled in life out of your current relationships, it's really easy to find a tribe, because guess what? Everybody that's in that tribe on that wavelength, they're thinking exactly like you. They want to meet more people just like you. So we have our Living Proof community, which you can look for on Facebook, and it has about 5,800 members. So we're closing in on 6,000. And people have told us that they've built relationships on there. I know people have been messaging back and forth after seeing a post. So they're finding their tribe. We do live events all the time where we have packed rooms full of people, like sold out crowds, and people actually develop friendships in this room because now you're physically in a room with people. Look for meetups on things you're passionate about. Make sure you're attending local events. Like you don't even have to travel far to do this. Leverage social media, because a lot of people are doing amazing work today and they love to share it with you, but a lot of times we don't acknowledge them, or we're afraid they won't message us back, or they're not going to meet. Like just this week in Houston, Andrew, we met with people who are operating at a level that we admire, that we look up to. They are in a way our mentors, but we just met them and we initially may have thought of them as these quote unquote untouchable people who probably have a very small friend circle, who are very schedule packed, so you don't get a lot of their time. We spent a whole weekend with these people. I had met these people for minutes, and they treated me like a long-term friend. We got the ultimate Texas hospitality while we were there. It was just shocking,
Shout out to
right?
the OG family in Texas.
Yeah, shout out to the entire OG family. Yeah, so that was just an amazing trip. And it was because of the quality of our relationship. So one thing that both of us didn't think was, oh, wow, we just kind of met these people and it was just good fortune. No, we've been developing the relationship skills. We've been attracting those types of people for months, if not years, right? So nothing is by coincidence, it's by design. So you have to actively pursue that. But literally, if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling in a lower mood, I don't like to use the word depressed too often, but if you're just feeling kind of down in the dumps and you feel like you don't have people to turn to, there are so many resources at your disposal, but you have to be willing to actually go out there and look. If you're drowning, we can't throw you a life raft if you're not going to reach on and kind of grab onto that life raft, right? So you have to be willing to actually put in the work and actually get yourself out there and meet people. And one of the things I've learned, I grew up it's interesting. I now that I reflect back on it, I grew up as a kid, I was pretty extroverted. I was, again, a troublemaker. Then I went through a personal health journey, which made me like an ultra introvert. And I think now I'm kind of a mix where I'm kind of an extroverted introvert. So not to confuse you guys too much, but I do like spending time on my own, spending time with myself, but I also love social situations. So I'm able to turn it up, but then I can come right back down, right? So knowing this, I didn't realize how easy it is to build a relationship with someone when you're walking down the mall and you see someone maybe with something you're passionate about, like, hey, I love that bag, or hey, where'd you get that organic bar that you're eating? Like, just spark up a conversation. Like 9 times out of 10, the person's going to be more than happy you asked, and it's going to turn into something much more meaningful, right?
Absolutely. I think that the big point here is it's important that we're balanced, that we're connected. I remember meeting a coach at an event, and she looked down at my plate and saw that there was meat there, a small amount of meat, and she actually said, how can you be a coach? How can you be healthy if you're eating meat? And I went into a bit of a light conversation back to her, but she clearly had her mind set up. And I noticed the rest of that week at this event that she was popping around to people, and you can tell that you could be super on point with your supplements and your diet and doing all the right things, but if you have this like resistance and this frustration with yourself, and it starts to leach into your relationships with others, you're undoing all that effectiveness, all that yoga, all those tools that you have. So my big thing is just chill out, okay? Like, we understand everybody's got a lot on their plate. It's not going to get any easier by you shoving, other people's faces in your plate, or, throwing your plate around. So here's another big thing that I do. If I'm trying to almost snap my fingers and get more lucky. So if I'm feeling like I'm in a bit of a light funk and I want to change the mood or the moment, I look for opportunities to do nice things for people, right? And I remember this vividly. Last summer, I've been a lot of traveling, a lot of work. There's a lot on the go, a lot of transitions, big things growing. But as you know, big things that look great, like, oh, Andrew, you got so much that's going for you. No, there were many times where I had to stretch and grow and push and acknowledge, am I showing up? How am I supporting others here? And I remember this one time I felt like something was slightly off. Like, I didn't feel like myself. I wasn't like deeply connected to what I was doing. And there was something that shifted. And so I actually purchased a couple of beautiful lawn chairs from my neighbor because there's actually really funny. We both have the same umbrella. Mine's an aqua green and theirs is a red. And I got the chairs for mine. And I went back to get more of my chairs. And guess what? They had a couple red on clearance along with mine. I'm like, okay, I'll grab that last one for me and I'll grab a couple for them. And I brought it over, and the expression, the awe that it brought them. They were just saying, hey, you won't believe it. We were just talking about your chairs. We were noticing them over on the deck and said how nice they were. And, you know, it doesn't take much to give you that feeling. And it might mean getting out of your head and getting into service. It's a big, big call to adventure for high performers. You know, I got dumped on, you know, my whole community there outside of Georgian Bay near Wasaga Beach, dumped on with snow. And I take my ATV with my plow and I go clear the driveway of the 70-plus-year-old who's walking her dog with a walker. I asked her, how are you going to get out today? She goes, well, the guy that normally snow blows isn't around, who's rushed to the hospital last week with diabetes issues. So I don't know. And I'm like, okay, no problem. So zoom. And I'm zipping around, having fun. And I'll tell you, like, although it was kind of fun and I just wanted to goof around with my toy, the fact that we can start demonstrating for others that we're willing to serve and, hey, how can I help you? How can I show up? And I do mean family too. I know that can be a touchy subject, that there's like a lot of these deep patterns that are ingrained. Just take a step back, right? And go through the steps we're giving you here, because you know, you'll be able to rewire not only your relationship quality and the people that you then attract into your life, but you'll notice less stress. You'll feel a deeper sense of connection with yourself and the world around you. So on that note, I want to leave you on is just realize that you have a choice, and that choice can produce anything that you want. And so if you want to get to those higher levels, relationships are going to be key. And if you notice you're having stress in relationships, if you're having frustrations or turbulence, or you're ascending into success and higher levels and you have no deep quality relationships, take a step back, okay? Take a step back, because in order to really be balanced and healthy on multiple levels, spirituality, emotionally, physically, mentally, we need that connection. Just like how trees need to be connected to the earth, we need to be connected to each other. So those are my thoughts there. And I know Ricky's got a few closing thoughts as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we talk about working on your relationships, but you also want to make sure that the relationships you're working on are not forced in any way. So I know with me, when I work with a patient or I work with a client, what I'm looking for is if they're on the same wavelength as me. You want to make sure that you actually have some belief in that relationship as well. So Andrew gave the great example of somebody who may have had a different dietary philosophy. Maybe it was very dogmatic on their part to only think in one way and think that people who eat meat simply aren't healthy. But guess what? If I have a patient come to me who thinks that and I eat meat, that relationship is sort of, you're clashing right off the start, right? So you want to make sure that you're resonating with people who are on the same frequency and the same wavelength as you. So if like you guys are listening to this podcast and you're like, oh, these guys, they use supplements don't work. They talk about mindset and performance. It's all a scam. Like, guess what? You're probably not going to resonate with us. And even if you sign up to see what we're all about from the perspective and right off the bat as a skeptic, you're probably going to get zero results, because guess what? You have to believe in what you do to actually get the results. So make sure that you are resonating. So with me, and that's not, again, from a judgment perspective, because those people are more than welcome to believe whatever they want. Me and Andrew have gone through our trainings, our life experiences, seen what works, what doesn't work. So we are absolutely biased just like everybody else is, but we would like to work with people who are on the same frequency as us. That's who gets the best results.
Or willing to put the time and effort with no judgment to get that frequency, because obviously you don't just come in with that frequency, and if there is some judgment, criticism there, that's okay, but we're definitely acknowledging that maybe you're bringing that from somewhere, and we're going to see where that comes from. But take a good close look, and be real, because we're now approaching the middle of February 2019, month and a half in. And let me ask you something. Has your life changed? Have you made changes? Or are you in the same pattern that you were in 2018? Because if you are, then something needs to be acknowledged. Is there an opportunity? Is there a way to shift your behavior, your thinking, your relationships, etc.?
Absolutely. And I can almost tell from the first visit sometimes which patient's going to more than likely do great. They're going to make the changes really easily, and who we're going to have to do some work with, who we're going to have to sort of change the mindset, change the frequency a little bit, and give them information so they feel comfortable to make that change. So relationships are everything, guys. If you guys don't have great relationships, you're not going to have a great life. Like, that is black and white in my opinion and Andrew's opinion. So work on them. We're here to support you in any way possible. We'll be back next week. Let us know. We love all the love that we've been getting. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for your support, guys. And we're going to keep delivering. Have an amazing day.
Thumbs up. Thanks, guys.